Good morning, everybody. This is Bob Coppage of Simplex-IT, and I'm here with Michele Bobola, and we're going to start talking about Office 2013 specifically, but I think you'll also learn some stuff about, Outlook specifically, but I think you'll learn some stuff about not just the 2013 version, but other versions as well. Just FYI, this meeting is being recorded, so it will be up on YouTube probably sometime next week. So, a couple of points. Unfortunately, we're not rich, so we don't have the ability to bring this on both phone and computer, so audio is on your computer only. We also figured out that we cannot do this if you're running Windows XP as far as sound goes. Use the text window to ask questions. Give us a holler if you're having problems connecting or hearing or the like. And within about a week or so, this will be up on YouTube. Also, get us some suggestions as far as what future meetings should be and the like. Speaking of future meetings, we are obviously pretty busy here as far as having events. Specifically next week, February 19th, as you see, file sharing in the mobile age. This is really aimed at businesses. You know, if you're trying to figure out Dropbox versus SkyDrive versus Anchor or anything along those lines, which ones make sense for companies. Then our next webinar, spoiler alert, is actually going to be PowerPoint 2013, continuing in this. Then our lunch hour after that's going to be on XP. Everybody's already talked about what are you doing if you're migrating and the like, but part of the question is going to be whether or not, if you haven't upgraded from XP, what do you do now? And then April 8th, we've got our networking and movie bash Forbidden OS that's going to be at the Kent Stage Theater, and more information on that to follow. So anyway, without any other further ado, I am going to turn this over to Michele.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, welcome. Welcome to the Outlook 2013 Making It Work for You. This webinar is going to cover a little bit of everything: the email, the contacts, the calendar, also looking at the different views, some of the new features. I'm sure people work in Outlook all the time. I'm sure you're always sending emails and you're using it. And you're working with it, but maybe you just don't know, how do I change the look of it? Well, what are some of the features that I can be using in Outlook? So the goal today is to kind of just go through email and calendar and contacts and just kind of show you. It's only an hour, but we're just going to go over some of the features of the program, and maybe you'll learn some tips and tricks and shortcuts and ways to make it a little bit more efficient for you to use. So the first thing I'm going to do is start out with the look of the email, starting with the email, and you will notice that I have 3 views here. If I go to the View tab at the top of Outlook, you will see that I have over here on the right something that says Folder Pane. That folder pane is this folder window on the left-hand side of your message screen, your email. And also down below here, you will notice in 2013 that you have Mail, Calendar that allows you to go to your calendar, People is your contacts, Tasks, and then you have a button with 3 dots. If you click on that button with the 3 dots, and you can also go to Notes, you can go to Folders, and then you can also go to Shortcuts, which actually would show you the little shortcuts that you have created. But if you click on the button with the 3 dots and go to Navigation Options, you can actually add, by clicking, it says maximum number of items. If I click on the up arrow and hit OK, now I can add notes to that bottom part. If I click on it again and add 6 items, then I can add folders. I can also move these around. So if you want calendar to be first, you just select it and use the move up or move down button and set this bottom part up the way you want. Also, when you hit OK, you will see the bottom part down here, so that when you hover over your calendar, you would see the calendar You would see contacts if you had anything in there, which I don't yet, and task, etc. So this little screen here, now if I go back to navigation options and check compact navigation and hit OK, then I'm looking at the little icons. I'm looking at the little envelope, the little calendar, the people, and the task. So it's a way of viewing, getting to those items quickly, and therefore you can get to them quickly. Now, when I'm in the email, you'll notice that I'm just looking at the email folders. But if I click on the little button and go to folders, then what I'm doing is I'm actually seeing all my folders, not only my inbox, but I'm also seeing my contacts folder, my calendar, and that's something that in a little bit I'm going to show you a little trick with, because you can actually drag messages from your email into your calendar folder and actually create an appointment. So I'm going to go back to email for now, and I'm going to go to the View tab, and the folder pane is that folder list on the left. So if for some reason it's missing, it's off, you wouldn't see it. So if you click on it and you choose normal, it would appear over here on the left. In the middle is my message, my email messages, and then on the right is what's called the reading pane. This is where if you want to select the message and then view it on the right, you can. Some people don't like that, so you can turn it off, and then you would have to double click on the message to open it. I'm actually going to keep it on. You can also send it to the bottom if you want, and then you can read your messages down below, depending on what you want to do. The other thing you'll notice is a to-do bar, and if I hit calendar, that would actually put my calendar over here on the right, and it depends on how large your monitor is. I mean, this is a lot of information to have on your screen, but if you have a large monitor, you can also add tasks to your to-do list, and you can see things that you need to do. You can see your calendar, what's going on today, and so that's what's called the to-do bar. And then they also have a people pane, which you notice down here it's minimized. So if I have the person's email selected and I have a photo for them for their contact and they've sent it to me, then I could see the people that are included in this email. So it's like photos, and it does kind of set up to you can set it up for social networking and stuff like that, but we're not going to get into that today. So the first thing I'm going to start with is emails. So I'm going to go to the home ribbon, and you notice that I have emails in my inbox. So if I want to create a new email message, I hit the new email button. But if I'm in the email folder and I do Control N as in new, I would get a new email window that would pop up, and a message window so that I could go ahead and send a message. If I am in the calendar view and I would do Control N, I would get a new calendar, and the new calendar would pop up and it would show up on my screen too. So the Control N is a shortcut feature, but if you're in there, you've got your new mail button, click on it, then you can hit the to button to click on to, and then you can actually go into your address book and go ahead and send it to the people that you want to send to. So if I want to send an email to myself, or to another person, and I can just double click on the names and it adds it to the list. Now, the other thing that you can do too is if you start typing, then what will happen is that the autocomplete comes up, and you can actually then click on the person that you want to send to. The other thing too is there's a little X on the right hand side. So sometimes you might send one email to somebody and you never want to send another email to them again, but they're going to pop up in your list and you don't want to see them. So there's a little X there that you can click on to actually remove that person from your autocomplete list, and then that way anytime you type, it's a great way to clean that out, because because the more people that you send to, the longer that list gets, and sometimes you just want to send to certain people and you don't want everybody that you've ever sent an email to in that list. So that's another thing. Then if you type and you do the Control K, it would bring up all of the people with the name of Michele, so you can see that you have, you know, Michael, you have Michele, anybody. I typed M-I-C-H, so that's why I got Michael and Michele and all the choices that are listed here that I can choose from, and hit OK. So if there's more than one person, then you'll get the list. If it's just you know, if I just type one person and hit Control K, and there is only that one person, it would put his name in there. But if there's more than one, then the little box will pop up. Now, the other thing too is that a lot of people say, you know, and this is based on where you work too. When you click on your little 2 button, it goes into your global address list. Usually that's, if you're at a corporation, it would be your company employees. And a lot of people will say, you know, I would like for it to go to my contacts first before it goes to my global address list. Or maybe at home you want it to go to your contacts. There's a way to change that. And if you notice on the home ribbon, there's an address book way over here on the right hand side. If I click on that, then what happens is that sorry, I'm bringing it up. It keeps going to the other window. So what I have here, when I click, and you have to do it from this address book, there's a Tools right here. It says Tools right in this window. And if you go to Options, you can actually say start with the contact folder instead of it starting with the global address list. Or you can go to Custom, and sometimes you have a whole list of address books that you can choose from. You can select that, hit OK, and then what will happen is it will automatically go to the contact list first instead of the global address list. So when you hit the 2 button or the CC button, it's automatically going to put that in there, and then you don't have to worry about, you can choose what address book that you want to go to. So I'm going to put a couple people in here. The other thing that you'll notice when you're in the message window is that you have a carbon copy, but if a lot of times people like the blind carbon copy. The blind carbon copy is that, you know, the person in the blind carbon copy can see the recipients in the email, but the other people don't know that that person received it. So if I go to the Insert tab and then I go to Options, it says BCC, and the BCC button can be added to that message so that I can blind carbon copy someone. And also you can add the From line so it knows it's from you. You can see that there. They're going to see that anyways, but sometimes people like to see that. On the Options tab, you also have some options where you can request a delivery receipt, or you can request a read receipt. The only problems with those is that a lot of times with the antivirus software that's out there, Outlook is prohibited from sending you that message that they actually read it. So it's not really true to life. A lot of times, you know, people can also set it so that read receipts not to respond to them, and that's under Options, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But, you know, just be aware that the delivery and the read receipts aren't always going to, you're not guaranteed that you're going to get a response. Use voting buttons. If I go to click on the button that says Use Voting Buttons, you can actually add, go to Custom, you can actually add these little buttons that say, where do you want to go for lunch? And they give you some choices in here, but you can actually add your own. You can type like, I'm just, you know, we're going cheap today. McDonald's, Wendy's, and I'm separating them by a semicolon. And so by doing that, I'm putting more options in there. And then in the message, I'm going to say, where do you want to go for lunch? Pick a choice, and you'll see what that looks like. So if I hit close, then it's going to have my little voting buttons. I don't see the voting buttons in the actual message that I'm sending, but when you get it, you will see it. So I'll make sure that I send it to myself so that you can see what the voting buttons look like. I'm going to put a message in here, and then I'm going to type my message. So I'm going to say, where do you want to go for lunch? Please vote using voting buttons. Now, the other thing that you probably will notice is that you have a format text button, so you can select your text and you can format it, though you can set those settings in the default, or when you select the text, you also have your little mini toolbar that appears, so you can do that. And the other thing that you will notice on the message tab is that there is a signatures box, and I don't have a signature created yet, so I'm going to create a signature from here. Actually, I'm going to go in the message window, I'm going to go to signatures, and I'm going to go ahead and there's some signatures in here, but if I wanted to create a new one, I would just hit new, and then I would type the name of my signature. And you can call it formal or informal, depending on what it is that you want. And then you can type your name, and you can type your title, your phone, and your email, whatever you want to put in there. You can format your signature if you want, just like you did in the past, and you may already have these created. So you can have more than one signature, and then you can then select it to choose that signature for all new messages, or also when you hit reply or forward, you can choose which signature you want to use. You can change it. If you did a formal or informal signature, you could actually change it for the email, depending on if you're sending emails to internal people or clients or external people. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now, because I just created it, it's not in there, so I'm going to hit Michele, and now it's going to put it in there, and then you're going to see my signature. If I want to edit it, I can go to signatures, I can go to signatures again, I can select it, and all I have to do to edit is just go in here and just change it and do whatever I want to it, and then when I hit OK, it makes those changes. And if I delete the old signature and go back and put the new signature in, there's the new one. So now I can also send attachments. I'm going to hit the attach file button. I have a file on the desktop that I'm going to select. I'm going to hit insert, and it's going to put my attachment in there. So you can attach files, you can attach business cards, calendar appointments, other things like that. You can set your message for follow-up if you want. Follow up today, we'll talk about flags a little bit later. And then you can set them as high importance, which they see an exclamation point next to it. And I don't know anybody that sets it to low. Why would you even send it if it's going to be on low? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and send this email. The other thing I wanted to say real quick is if I go to insert, you can also insert pictures if you wanted in your message. You can insert tables. You can insert, they have something called screenshots that you can actually click on here and actually take a screenshot or a screen clipping where you can go in, and then when you click on screen clipping, it goes to whatever window is behind the scenes, and then just put that whole scene. You see how it just inserted the whole screen that I have in front of me into the message, and you can then send it. So you don't have to do the print screen. It's a new feature in 2013. Now, there's a send button right here, but if I want to go ahead and send this, and I do Control and my Enter key. Now, this is the first time this is gonna come up. So whenever you use the Control Enter, it says, do you want to use Control Enter as a keyboard shortcut for sending a message? So if you like shortcuts and you want to do that, just say yes, and then you won't see that message again. The next time you send a message, it should not come up. I don't think I checked that one box, but you can see that it won't come up. Now, in my inbox, if you notice, you have a send receive tab, so that if somebody said, I sent you a message and I want to speed it up, I can hit send and receive, or I can hit F9. F9 is the shortcut for send and receive. Now, I have my reading pane over here on the right, and so therefore you can see that when the reading pane is open, I can actually, a couple things here. I can read the message. I can reply to the message with the reading pane on. I can do reply to all. So if I hit reply, it's going to open up my message, and I can then, but if I'm not ready to send it, I can just, click on the pop out for it to pop up, and then I can just see it like I double clicked on it if you want to. And then you can reply all, you can forward. You can see it says this message includes voting buttons. Click here to vote. So if I click here, what happens is you don't see the actual options right on the screen. You have to click there, but when you do, it will say which one do you want to choose from. So if I choose that, and then I'm going to send the response to them so that they know that's where I want to go, then I'm going to get a response from that person as to where they want to go. So you can actually, a lot of people don't use the voting buttons, but it's a nice feature and a lot of people don't know about it. The other thing that you'll notice too with the reading pane on is that there's my attachment. See, I'm starting to get the little where people want to go for lunch. Now, if I double click on that message and open it up, and you can see that it's part of a tracked conversation. Click here to find all related messages. So if I go to view voting responses, it'll actually tell me what everybody's voted real quick so that I can actually see what the popular choice is. So that's another reason why the voting buttons are kind of nice, because if you're sending it to 20 people, you can find out quickly what their choice is going to be. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about with the views is that with the views, I'm going to go to the View tab. One of the things, and I'll go back to my message in a little bit, but sometimes the default setting for your messages is to view in groups, like everything that came in today. Gee, I think everybody wants to go to McDonald's. Everything that came in today, everything that came in yesterday. And sometimes people don't like that. They don't like that grouping. Like, I don't want to see like today, yesterday, last week. That can actually be turned off. If I click on the drop-down arrow, under View, there's an Arrangement section. Right now, Date, and that's fine, Date is set for the default for, they come in from most recent to oldest emails, which is fine. Or you can also have them, come in by, who they're from or so forth. But if you click on this little button here, which is called the More button, you click on it, it expands out. You see how it says Show in Groups? If I click that to turn the check mark off, they're no longer in groups. So if you notice, I don't have them grouped. I just have them by recent to oldest, and I can do that by just clicking on this to kind of, change the sorting. I can sort by subject, but I turned that today, yesterday, last week off. The other thing is, something that was new in 10 was Show as Conversations. And when you click on that, I'm going to just say this folder. What happens is it kind of groups your messages by conversation. And if you notice, there's an arrow right up here that if I click on it and expand it, everything related to that email that I sent earlier is grouped together. So if I click on that, it's based on the conversation that you'll see. So by expanding it and unexpanding it, that's the conversation feature. Now, before it used to be turned on as a default. Now I don't think it is the default in 13, but if it's something you don't like, then you just uncheck that Show Conversation box and just say this folder. But you can actually add that conversation view to all of your folders. So your folders that you create under your inbox, the folders that you create, in sent items, etc., and your deleted items folder. So, and then also you notice right here in the arrangement area, they have the add columns button. And if I click on that, I can actually add columns to my email. So if I want to take something out, or if I want to put something in, I can, that's frequently used. I can say all mail fields, and then I can add and customize my columns, what I want to see and what I don't want to see. So you can see that, and then you can notice too, when I have the message and I go over to the right, there's an X. And I can actually delete the message. So I can just hit the delete button right here and delete them. I don't have to go and find the delete button on the home ribbon. I can just delete them. You can flag messages by clicking right on the flag. You can right click on the flag and you can choose whatever flag you want. You can mark the flag as completed so that it has a little check mark, so when that is done, and this is more for you, so you're kind of, checking your messages, the things that you need to take care of, and then if you're done, you can right click and clear the flag so it's gone. But over here, if you do have the flag, you can do that. It says that you can categorize your messages too, and so you can actually highlight them so that if and you can change those category. If you right click and you go to all categories, you can actually change the name of that. So if you want to call this, this is our lunch category, and I want to make that, orange, so I click on it. Now, if I click on this one and I want to make that lunch, then you'll see the little colors over here if you add the category column, and then you can group them by category, because you can click on that and you can put all the, the red ones together, the orange ones together, and then you can use whatever labels you want. Those categories can be used for calendars, they can be used for contacts, and it's a great way to organize your information that is in Outlook. The other thing that you can do is, I'm going to go back to the home ribbon because I'm still in my email, is that I can use what are called quick steps. And what quick steps do is they allow me to do things quickly. If you notice, there's a quick steps section right here, and I'm going to click on the drop down arrow, and I can create a new quick step, like a move to folder, categorize, and then move. So I can say use this category and then move it into this folder, and then I can do some other ones, and then I can even go to customs and I can do it from here too. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a folder under my inbox, so I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to new folder, and I'm going to go ahead and call this lunch. Then what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to click on this little drop down arrow, and I'm going to go to new quick step, and I'm going to say categorize and move. So it says after this quick step, you can name it, so I can give it another name if I want. I could say lunch, and lunch category and lunch folder, because we always have to decide where we're going to lunch. So I can say, okay, I want you to move this message to the lunch folder, and then I want you to mark it as orange, and then mark it as red after I'm done, after I go ahead and use this quick step. So I'm going to hit finish, and that little category that little quick step that I just created is up here in the quick step section. So if I select this message, or this message, and this message, and maybe I'll select them all, and then I hit this quick step, they disappeared. And you said, where did they go? Well, now if I click on the lunch folder, there they are. So they actually all moved right into that folder by clicking on that quick step. It's almost like a rules and alerts where you hit a rule and you can say, rules do it automatically. When you set up a rule and you say, send all messages from Bob into his folder so that, either whether they're read or unread, you click on Bob's folder and you can see all the messages that Bob sent you. That's always automatic. But quick steps are you have to select the messages and then hit the button. Sometimes you're not sure you want everything to go to a folder automatically, and you want to be able to make that decision. So that's what a quick step allows you to do. So you can always, move them back to where you want them to go, but that's what a quick step will do. And if I go back to my inbox, all of my messages are going to be there. Now, there's a little arrow to the left of the inbox. They made these arrows very light. It's hard to see them. So you'll notice when it's white, that just means that you have subfolders. So if I click on that little arrow, it'll expand out. It'll show me my subfolder. If I want to make another folder under there and give it a name, and then I can actually move files into email messages into that folder. And then I can just go ahead and do that. Now, the other thing is your folders. This is based on where you work. There are a lot of retention policies out there. Some companies only allow you to have your messages for 90 days. Others will let you keep them forever. Others make you move your messages into folders on another drive because after a certain time period, they're going to disappear. So what you have to do is you have to find, you probably know what your retention policy is, but you need to figure out what that is so that when you can go ahead and make sure that you're keeping the things that you want to keep and you're not losing them. That also goes for your send items, because your send items folder is going to keep a copy of every message you send. So if there's certain things that you need to keep, you may have to move them into a folder where you know things are not going to get deleted. And your deleted items folder is another folder that when you delete messages, so if I go in here and let's say I delete this message right here by clicking on that little X, and it goes into that folder, then you're going to know that, it used to be 7 days, but, depending on the retention policy, you have to find out when these items are going to be purged and if there's a place that you can store them so that they are stable and you will not lose them. But again, every company is different and you need to find that out. Now I want to go back to the email that I sent earlier that had the attachment. So, and I think I just deleted it. Oh no, here it is. So with the reading pane on in 2013, they have a new feature. If you have the reading pane on, you can do two things. You can actually preview the attachment in the reading pane, and you do that by clicking once on the attachment. So if I click once on this Word document, it just pops up in my screen. And if it was PowerPoint, I have a PowerPoint one, I'll show you. You can actually preview all the slides in the preview pane. You can see your Excel spreadsheet in here. You can see your Word document in here. So you can actually preview it, and then when you open it up in the preview pane, there's an attachments ribbon, and you'll notice that it has a Save As button. You can print it if you want to print it. You can save all all attachments would be for like attachments. That would be for all Word documents. If you have like 5 Word documents and you want, like if you click on it and then it would ask you, well maybe it will do Excel and PowerPoint, all of the attachments that come with the email, and then you could say save all those and then tell them where to go. Or in this case, I'm going to hit Save As. I'm going to put it on the desktop. I'm going to give it a different name so that it doesn't interfere with the one I already have, and I'm just going to hit Save. So what I just did is, even though I was able to preview it in the reading pane, I was able to save it also, so that if I want to go and use it, I can. Now, If you double click on the attachment, it will launch the program that it was created in, and then it will automatically go ahead. Now it's putting it in the reading view in Word, so I just hit escape to turn that off. And now I'm in Word, and you can see that there's my document. And then I can hit the save button and save it also this way. So you can still launch it if you need to go into the program to read it, but a single click will let you preview it in the preview pane, in the reading pane, and if you double click on the attachment, it will launch the program. So that's a nice feature. I'm going to go back to my inbox, and there was that PowerPoint presentation that you saw today. So I'm going to click once on that, and then it's gonna run it. But now watch what happens. If I use my little wheel on my mouse, I'm looking at each slide in the presentation. So I'm able to preview the presentation without having to go into PowerPoint and look at it. So if you're trying to stay in Outlook and you don't want to have to go into PowerPoint to look at it, then you can stay within Outlook and you don't have to be jumping all over the place. One of the things that is kind of nice too with emails. Earlier I told you that right now if I click on the mail icon, I'm only looking at the email messages, like the sent items, you know, the inbox, all of my folders. I can also take a folder, I could drag it up to favorites if I want. So favorites would always be, you know, the folders that you use the most, and then you wouldn't want to put everything up in favorites, but you can put the folders that you use up the most, and then you can actually find them easier. That's the purpose of favorites. But down here where that little button is with the 3 dots, if I click on it and I go to folders, that actually brings up all the folders for not only my subfolders, but it brings up the calendar, it brings up contacts, it brings up notes, it brings up tasks. I'm going to do something here. I'm going to take this message and I am actually going to drag it to the calendar. And when I let go, it's going to bring up the new appointment window. What this did is it just turned this message into an appointment. And I can set the time, and then I can have the message in the window here, and then I can actually save and close this, and this will put this on my calendar as an appointment. But it still keeps the message in my email. This is called auto-create. So it's a feature that has worked in Outlook for a long time, but a lot of people weren't familiar with it. Now if I take it and drag it into contacts, it's actually going to open up the contact folder, and then I can actually put what I like to do sometimes is a lot of times in the body of the message it will have the person's name and address and phone number and all of that. And even though there's other ways to create a contact out of an email message, usually it just puts the you know, just their email on the line. But what if I want their address? Then I have to print it, and then I have to go and, you know, type that out. Well, if I have the body of the email message in the contact folder here, in the contact window, I can either cut and paste that information into the appropriate fields, or I can just go in here and type it because it's right here for me. So I can just take the email message, drag it into the contact folder, and this is what I get. I can also take it and drag it into the task folder. If I do that, I get the new task window, and it turns it into a task, things that I need to do. So this auto-create will work really well. As I said, the reason this works is because you have all of the folders listed here, and that's what the folders button down here is for. Now, if I go back to mail, you're going to see that it's just the email folders, so I can't drag it to the calendar and so forth. But, you know, it's a feature that's nice, and I like to use it a lot. If there's messages from someone and you don't want them, you want to treat it as junk, you can right-click and go to junk and block the sender. Sometimes you will have emails appear in your junk email that you do not want them to be blocked, so you can actually right click on them and you can say do not block, so that they now start, and then it'll go to your inbox, and then you don't have to worry about, but sometimes I find a lot of times, even though I've said do not block, they end up being blocked anyway. So there's a lot of antivirus and spam software out there, so it all works differently depending where you are. Now, the other thing is, a lot of people, especially with the new version of Outlook, go, you know, whatever happened to my out-of-office assistant? I don't know where it is. Well, it's behind the scenes. It's actually, if you go to the File tab up in the upper left-hand corner, and you notice that it says, where is it? Automatic replies. If you click on automatic replies, then this brings up the out-of-office assistant. So then you can say, I'm going to be out of the office from this date to this date, and so forth. You also have your rules and alerts here, so that if you click on it, you can hit new rule, and you can say move messages from this person to this folder. And what that does is, every time that message comes in from that person, it automatically sends it right to that folder. So that's a rule. A rule is automatic, whereas a quick step, as we talked about earlier, is something that you have to select and then click on in order for it to occur. All right, so now I'm going to go to the people. Down here, there are the people. It says people, but that's your contact folder. So now, if I wanted to turn an email into a contact, one of the ways was I, dragged it to the contact folder. Another way is to hover over the person's name, and then you will notice that you get some options. If I click on the drop-down arrow, I can send an email. I can do that. I can, there's a calendar. The calendar information appears. I can get the phone number and all the information that came with that email. I can also, if I want, I can also right-click on the email address that appears here, and I can say Add to Outlook Contacts. And when I hit Add to Outlook Contacts, and then I go to my People folder down here, it should, it didn't add it. Never mind. Let's see what happened here. So right-click, Add to Outlook Contacts, hit Save. I had to wait for it to expand. Now if I go to Contacts, there he is, and there's his picture. So now Bob has appeared. I have Bob in my contact folder. I can double click on him. I have the information here if I want, and then I can close it. Now, the other thing is, if you want to create a new contact, you hit the new contact card. You type in the information of the person that you want, the company. It is very important when you're creating a contact card that you put the information in the correct fields. If you are doing a mail merge, there's a feature in Word where you can do mail merges, and you might want to mail merge. You can mail merge to Outlook contacts. But if the information is not in the correct fields, it won't work. What I mean by that is down here where the address is. Whenever you see drop-down arrows, that means that you have other options. Like you can do up to 3 emails for someone. You can do like their business phone, their mobile phone, whatever. And then down here you can put up like their business address, their home address, etc. But if you just start filling this information out, sometimes you don't get all of the fields. Click on the business button, and then you put the street, the city. So if you put the street, 123 Market Street, and you put, we'll put Hudson, we'll put Ohio, zip, etc. But make sure that you're putting the fields in the right place. And when you hit OK, it'll put it in there. And because sometimes people put Hudson, they put Ohio down here. That's not putting the fields in the right place. So you have to watch that. Now, the other thing, I don't even know if this is here, but there's a map button. So if you click on this, you can actually map the address and find out where it is. You can actually then get driving directions to that location. and it'll show you where it is. So if you're going to meet this client and you open up the contact card, you hit map it, and it goes right to Bing's Maps, and you can get the directions to your client's place. You can also put photos in here by clicking on the photos. So I'm just going to go to the pictures folder. I don't know what photos these are, so I don't want to pick something that I'm not sure of. So I'm just going to go ahead and close that. And then you have, I'm going to close this and save it. Now, you can view this as business cards. You can view it as cards. You can view it as a phone, just the phone information, list. There's some more choices in here. I like the business card. I think a lot of people do. The little letters over here, they actually are navigation. They work. So the more information, the more contacts you have in here, then you want to get to the P's quickly, you go ahead and click on the letter T, and it jumps you to the T's. So for those of you that remember the old Rolodexes where you had the little tabs at the top, that's exactly what they do. A lot of people don't realize that those little buttons actually work. The other thing you can do with contacts is you can go to New Contact Group and create what's called a distribution list. And what that does is it allows you to, I'm going to call it my lunch group, and then I can go to add members. I can add members from the address book, so then I can add, the people that I invited earlier, and I can choose them from my list. I can also then go to my Outlook contacts and add people to the distribution list. And then when I hit save and close, it's going to say, group. So anything that says group is a distribution list. You can actually right click on the card and you can forward cards as an Outlook contact to people. So if someone says, hey, I'd like to have that contact that you have, for individuals you can send them as a business card or an Outlook contact. You can send your groups. The other thing you can do too is if I want to, I'm going to go and create a new email message, and then I hit 2. And again, I go to contacts, but remember I showed you you could have it go right there. And there's my lunch group. I'm going to hit OK. Now, when you're sending to a distribution list, one of the things is that sometimes maybe you're having a surprise party for something, or you don't want them included in this particular meeting, then you can actually click on the plus to the left of the group, and you can expand it. And then, if you want, you can then take that person out of that group email. So for this particular email, maybe you're going to lunch, or maybe you're doing something and they don't need to be there. So you can actually then just take out the people that you don't want, but that only takes them out for this email. That is not taking them out from all the emails. They're still in the group that you created. It's just that you just don't want them for this particular email. Then you just go ahead and do your email and hit send. If you want to edit the group, double click on it. You can select the person and you can just, take them out. Just hit your delete key and it takes them out of the group. You hit save and close to update it. So you have your groups and you have your contacts. Also, if I open a contact, I can also categorize that contact, and then you can then view it that way too. Now, some other things about the, I know I'm looking at the time and it's like 10 till. So you can share your contacts with, a lot of times, like someone who's a president will share his contacts with his assistant, and they will go ahead and put the share window in and share the contacts. You can actually invite that person, like he can send this to his assistant to go ahead and whoever you send this to, they'll be able to look at your contact stuff. Now, the other thing too, in a contact, if you open up a contact, if someone does have permission to look at your contact folder, but you do not want them to see the information in a particular contact, you can actually click on private and mark that as a private contact. Anything marked private, you can do that with your contacts, and a lot of times people will do that with their calendar appointments. So I'm going to go to the calendars now, and I'm going to move to the calendar, and I wanted to talk about the calendar before the session ends. So when you go to your calendar, you have your way of viewing. A lot of people like to view the work week. You can view it by month, or you can view it by day, and then you can see the whole day. They have this little thing now where they actually have like a little view where you can actually view your weather. So if you want to be disappointed, well, depending on where you are, but well, actually this is a heat wave for us, so that looks pretty good. But you can actually, they have a weather bar now in your calendar. In the day view, you notice you have your months over here. You can actually, if you go ahead and drag this bar over, you can see more months. You can actually, here's a tip I love to show people, is that, okay, I'm looking at today's date. What if I want to look at, next Wednesday? Well, if I clicked on work week, I would only see this week, or if I click and drag over the days, I'm going to see everything in between. Hold your control key down on your keyboard and click on the 19th. Click on the 26th. Click on March 12th. What are you noticing on my day view? You're noticing that I'm looking at those days next to each other, even though they're not next to each other. So hold your control key down to do that. Also, if you created an appointment, because you have the recurring appointments, but the recurring appointments are only for a set pattern. So if I type in I must be hungry because I'm doing this lunch thing, and I say, okay, so here's here's the meeting, and I'm going to hit save and close. Now I can hold my control key down and I can actually copy this across my calendar. It's putting it on those non-consecutive days. And so even though I can't use the recurring appointment for this because it doesn't follow a set pattern, I can still copy and paste this on those days. So now when I click over here on a single day, you see the days that I have it on the 19th, I have it on the 26th, and I have it on the 12th. So I'm able to do that by holding my control key down and then dragging and then holding the control key down to copy the appointment over. The other thing is you have this time over here on the left, and this blue line shows you the current time. So of course you know that this is already past and this is upcoming, and then you can always change the calendar in the options setting, which I'll show you in a minute. But here's one nice thing you can do. You can right click and you can change the default setting from 30 minutes to 60 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes. If you're a doctor's office and you're doing 15-minute interviews or appointments, if you set it for 15 minutes, then it's set that way. So if I do 60 minutes, it's set for every hour. The other benefit of that is every time you double click to create an appointment, your time is set to an hour. So the appointment time is from 4 to 5 instead of 4 to 4:30. If you've ever wondered why it's always a half hour, it's because of the time scale that's on the left-hand side of the appointment window. The other thing you can do too is I'm going to just change it back to 30 just, so I don't forget. But if you right click and you go to change time zone. Okay, let's say that you deal with, I have this time zone, but now I want to show a second time zone. I want to see, I have a client who's in Hawaii, and I want to know what time it is. So I'm going to click on the drop down arrow here, and there it is. There's Hawaii. So if I hit OK, there's Hawaii, there's my time zone, and there's Hawaii. So if you notice, it's almost 12 o'clock here, but it's only 7 in the morning there. Or if you have European clients and you need to know, what time is it, or if you have, somebody who's in the Olympics and you want to know what time it is, there you go. So if I right click, I went to time zone, and I added a second time zone. You can't do more than 2. You have one, which is yours, and then another one. But this is nice if you have, like, we used to have a company that owned us, and they were from London. So we had to do that, so when we were sending things, we needed to know what time it was. So that's a really nice feature, too. All right, so I'm going to double click on the appointment. I can put in the location. I can put in, there's a meeting. It's over in, Hudson, and what time it is. Here's another cool thing. You do have a little calendar here, and you can click on your date that you want to set it for. But, if I type the word tomorrow and hit enter, what did it do? It just put tomorrow's date in there. If I select this and I put in next week, puts in the 20th. If I go in and I say next Friday and hit enter, it puts next Friday's date in. If I say 1 month, it'll go ahead and put March 21st. Well, that was 1 month from the date that was already in there. So now things like holidays, you have to watch. Like Christmas is always going to be on the 25th. So it's going to automatically know that that's Christmas. But because Thanksgiving changes, if you type Thanksgiving and hit enter, it's not going to know when Thanksgiving is because that date changes every year. So, but then if I type today and hit enter, it puts today's date in. So I like that feature. An all-day event is not set for time. So all-day events would be like for birthdays or anniversaries or things that you don't want to take up time on your calendar. Then you would go ahead and mark that as an all-day event. If you are scheduling, you have this as a meeting, you have recurring appointments, so you can go in and set this up as as a recurring appointment, like, happens every week or that. You're probably familiar with that. You can categorize them, and then you can also mark them as private if somebody else is going to look at it. Now, you can invite people. So if I want to invite people, you're probably, you might be familiar with this already. I'm going to invite Bob. I'm going to invite John. I'm going to invite Michelle and hit OK. Now, here's one thing that, and you might use this if you do a lot of scheduling, you do not have to have permission to somebody's calendar to see if they're available or not. That is what the scheduling assistant is for. If you click on the scheduling assistant, then it will show you now, if I look at this, I can see that the time that I want to schedule the meeting, Bob's not available. Everybody else is available, but he is not. Now, there is an options button down here. A lot of people don't realize this, but if you go to auto pick, now also somebody really needs to be using their calendar for this to work, but if you go to auto pick and you say, okay, all people and resources that are here, I want all the required people, I want to find out when they're all available. So if I click on that, it goes out and it tells me, well, Friday on the 14th, they're all available, except for that person, at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I may say, okay, so I click on the little button that is to the left of them, and I can make them optional. Or I can uncheck them and say, you know what, I don't want them in the meeting, so I'm going to exclude them from this one. And then I can say, okay, I'm going to book this at this time. So notice that it changed the date and it changed the time of the appointment. So now, there's this little send button right here. It's real small, but you can see it. So when you're in the scheduling assistant, you can hit send, and it'll automatically send that to them, and then it'll try to, and then they have to accept and decline the appointment like they normally do. But you kind of find a time when everybody is free. So if you know that a couple people aren't available this day, when is everybody available? So that you don't have to waste time sending emails back and forth trying to figure out when everybody's going to be free. So that is the scheduling assistant. You do have the thing where you can share calendars. You can send your calendar and have somebody share it. And then what happens is when you're in the calendar view, those calendars that you are able to look at will actually you'll see them over here on the left, and you can check them, and then it would put their calendar here. So you would see your calendar, and then you would see their calendar and any other calendars that you have permission to look at. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is if you go to File, which is the Backstage view, and you go to Options, these are the default settings for your Outlook. So if you go to Mail, we talked about, always check spelling before sending. I would recommend you check that. I mean, I don't know how many people send emails and then they don't check their spelling, and you should always have that check. So instead of always having to run spell check automatically, this would do it for you. It would automatically run it, and you don't have to worry about hitting the spell check button. Your signature button, you can create your signatures as I showed you before. I'm actually going to delete my signature from here, but I can delete them. I can choose which ones I want to create. You can change your stationery and your font. So, every time you type a message, a new mail message, you hit font. Maybe you need it to be 12 or 14. You want it to be a certain font. You want it to be bold. Don't type in all caps because that sounds like you're yelling. So people who type in all caps, that is not a good thing because that means that you are yelling at someone. You can also, change how you reply and forward messages. So when you hit reply and forward, what font and what color and what size do you want it to be? There are themes in here. They're like built-in backgrounds that you can add. I don't know if this might be a dangerous thing to show you, but you can actually, every time you open an email, you could have that background, which might be nice if you have something like a logo or something that you've created, and you can customize those too and set those up for yourself. So you have all of your option settings for your emails here. The tracking that I mentioned about the receipt, it says ask if somebody's requesting a receipt. Well, sometimes people set it so it never sends a read receipt. So you got to watch that because, as I mentioned, the read receipts you're not always going to get. And then you have some other settings for your email. You have settings for your calendar. So, if your time is different from an 8 to 5 calendar, then set it for 7 to 4 or whatever your time is, so that the white area of the calendar is shaded for your working time. If you don't like reminders every 15 minutes, you can choose uncheck the reminder box, or you can say, you know what, remind me 30 minutes before, not 15 minutes before. And then you have settings for your contacts, your task, and then under advanced, you also have your settings. And one of the things too is if you do work at home or whatever, and you want to export your Outlook, hit export, do export to a file, next, and export it as a PST file. I do this at home a lot, and then you put it, this is backing up your Outlook. Now, if you're in an office and you're in a company, they have the Outlook on a server, they're backing everything up for you. But if you're at home and you're like, well, gee, how do I back up my Outlook? This is a way to do it because I have lost emails before and then I've been able to save them because I've backed it up. So, and it's under advanced and it's export. So I know that we've kind of run out of time. It's about almost 10 after, and it might have seemed like it went a little fast, but I wanted to touch upon everything and just kind of show you some things with Outlook that you might not be familiar with. So I hope that you found this interesting, and I hope you learned a lot today. And also, you know, we're going to be having these every month. So today, the next month is going to be PowerPoint. PowerPoint is fun, and it really is fun.
Yay!
So thank you very much for attending today's session.
See you next month.